Hey, welcome to Mike the Baptist. Where have you been?
I don't know. Where have you been?
That may be a better question. Well, you know, first of all, welcome to Mike the Baptist. Welcome, Jason Ricciardi.
What's up?
And I'm Mike the Baptist. Today's just Jason and I. Everybody else kind of bailed on us. They actually have lives.
They heard that Jason was on the podcast today.
And they said,
I'm out. Like, no, I'm out.
I'm out. No, people just have they have lives, and we do too. So we had to actually juggle a little bit of scheduling too to get this done today. But anyway, I'm glad. I'm kind of looking forward to this. We don't have the extra noise to deal with.
Yeah, this will be interesting.
We can talk a lot.
You and I are both exceptionally ADHD, so this will be fun.
Exceptionally, and I have not taken my medication since noon.
So you're in for a journey if you're listening.
Probably so.
Congratulations. Stay on for the ride.
Anything might happen, but it'll be fun. It's always fun, but. Yeah, so everybody's just kind of been scattered a little lately, and that happens. That's life. You know, school has started back and kind of turning fall. There's a lot going on in everybody's world, so we give them all a break, but we'll have a little fun here ourselves.
There we go.
So anyway, did I mention your name, Jason Ricciardi? I think I did.
I think you did.
Okay, good. www.mikethebaptist.com. It's a website. Go on there and look around. Send us an email, comments, at mikethebaptist.com. You know what's bad about that right there?
What?
Every episode, when it gets to that email address, something trips in my mind, and I kind of forget, is it info or comments? This time I remembered. I said comments, and then I got something in my throat. So I can never get that out just straight through like that. But anyway, we try. Website, email, that's it, I guess, isn't it? You got anything interesting about, I don't know. It's been so long.
It has been a minute, yeah.
I forget exactly what to do. However, I do remember one thing.
What's that?
The Front Porch.
Oh, the Front Porch is awesome. I always love this part.
I do too, you know. I'm glad we do that. It's just kind of nice to see what everybody comes up with all the time. And you know what I'm really looking forward to? At some point, I think, Jason, MTB needs to be live somehow, or allow people to call in or Skype in or something.
Yeah.
Because that way we can get more crazy people on the front porch.
That could be real fun.
Yeah, on the front porch talking about stuff.
You know, they do it in all of these other podcasts. They'll live stream it and everything, and then they'll have the they call them the power users, and they'll call in and
you got the little screen where they're chatting and what's going on.
Yeah, the power chat. And
we might look into that sometime. I'm a little busy right now with all sorts of things, so I can't look into it yet. But we might get there, because I think that would be fun. There's a reason I haven't done any of this live yet, is because some of the people I know I don't really trust live. So,
are you talking about me?
No. You're okay. But we both know some other people that we have to figure that out. Maybe time delay. That's why they have time delay.
Oh, you know, they have the dump button. Yeah. Gotta have one of those.
Well, today on the Front Porch, Jason, let's talk about fishing.
Yeah.
I don't recall that topic being talked about on the Front Porch in a couple of years we've been doing this.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So I thought of that because I had invited a mutual friend of ours to come on today. He couldn't make it, but he and I used to do some fishing together. Mm-hmm. And we've been on a few little fishing trips together, and I thought, you know, if he shows up, that would be a good topic. And we'll save it. When he comes in someday, we'll still talk about it. But I thought, well, now Jason might have an interesting fishing
I've got
story.
A couple that could be pretty funny, yeah.
That's what I was kind of thinking. I don't really have anything fishing-wise that's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not hilarious. Actually, it was hilarious. I took a bunch of men from my church years ago on a fishing trip to the Caney Fork.
Okay.
Which is an area here in Middle Tennessee that is a cold water river, and it's known for trout.
Yeah. It's definitely cold year-round. I mean...
Yes. Actually, you know... this is totally beside the point, but we've already laid it out there that we both have ADHD, or I just have ADD. I don't have the hyper part.
Oh, I have the hyper for sure.
So, when you go over to the Caney Creek from Nashville here, there's an area on the interstate just before you get to the I think it's Buffalo Valley, where you access the Caney a lot. But anyway, there's a stretch of road there, maybe 6, 8, 10 miles long, where the river crosses under the interstate, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So for years, I've been writing a song called "Crossing the Caney Fork." It's about somebody leaving somebody else, but it's taken them about as long and as many tries as "Crossing the Caney."
Okay.
Anyway, it's a better song than I just explained, but
sort of like a boomerang relationship,
something like that.
You toss them out and they come back before too long.
Something like that. Yeah. But anyway, we'll work it out. But anyway, so on one of those fishing trips, there was a couple of young brothers that went. No, it wasn't the brothers. It was one of the boys and his dad, friends of mine. And I think I might have dared him to eat some raw trout. And he caught a small trout, standing there in the river, took out his pocket knife, sliced the back of it open, and took a bite out of it. And then another mutual acquaintance of ours that's at our church
took a
bite too.
Like a parasite or Giardia? I mean, I
don't think so. The trout are pretty clean, in that cold water. They're pretty clean, but he's still alive. I saw him at my local Walmart recently.
I still wouldn't tempt fate, man. Fish tastes good cooked. I'm not going to eat it raw.
Well, I was impressed.
Because
I thought, nobody's going to do that if I ask them to do it.
They're slimy. They got like mucus on their skin, and that helps them glide through the water.
So but you peel that skin back and you take a bite.
Oh, okay. So he pulled the skin back.
Well, he didn't so much pull it back. He just kind of.
So he ate like good times.
He split the back.
We all have friends,
and then he just took a bite. It was really funny. So that's not a funny fishing trip, but it was a good fishing trip. This is not about fishing. But I'll tell you what was funny about that same trip. When everybody was bedding down and all at night, there's more guys than there were beds in one of these cabins. I think we had 2 or 3 cabins, but there were more guys in one building than there were beds. So one guy said, well, I'll just sleep on the floor on the other side of this bed, and it won't bother me a bit. Okay, fine. Sometime before I went to bed, I walked by and happened to glance over there. It was the first time I had seen anybody with one of those breathing apparatus that they sleep in. I swear the guy looked like a walrus down there with a big snorkel or something back over his head.
Sounds like he's off of Star Wars or something too, right? It was, I'll never forget that. There's my fishing story. That's kind of an odd fishing story, but I'm anxious to hear, Jason. Tell me I've got some fun ones. There's like 3 or 4. When you initially said fishing stories, I was thinking, man, I don't know that I have that many. And then as I kind of went through the Rolodex of fun memories, I'm like, I've got some that are actually pretty good. So we've all been frustrated before going fishing. If you've ever spent any time fishing, there's times where you go out and just there's nothing that gets caught.
It's just fishing. No catching.
Yeah, there's no catching. It's just fishing. Well, we went one time salmon fishing, and we are literally salmon are running. I mean, they're all over the place. And we're literally watching everybody around us with 5-gallon buckets, and they're just casting out, reeling in fish. You just have a treble hook. It's not like normal fishing. You're just reeling it out and bringing them back in, hoping to catch them with a treble hook. And we're literally watching 5 or 6 people all the way around us in this river, just casting out, bringing them back in. Huge. I mean, you're talking like 18-inch long, 2-foot long salmon, and they're just dropping them in the bucket. And then, I mean, they're out there 10, 20 minutes, something like that, and their bucket's full. And there's a group is me, my dad, and at least a couple other guys. We're all watching this happen, and we're all casting, we're all fishing. Not a single fish for days. For days. We're watching this happen. I mean, we're watching somebody catch it over there. So we move to that area and we try to catch fish there, and there's no catching fish over there. And then we watch somebody else trying to catch it over here, and we go over there, nothing. And then we try to go upstream. We think, well, it'll narrow down and maybe we'll be able to catch something up there. Nothing. We could not catch a single fish. It was a multi-day fishing trip. Couldn't catch anything.
No fish.
And so there's that. And then there was this other time. We lived in Colorado, and I don't know if you know much about living in Colorado. There's a certain time of the year where...
Well, I haven't lived there, so I don't know much about living there.
Well, let me paint a picture for you.
Pointing that out.
Okay, so we lived at...
That was free.
At like 10,000... I appreciate that. We lived at like 10,000 feet, maybe a little bit higher. We're quite a bit high elevation, and so at higher elevations, you get snow, and we lived on a dirt road, and so when the snow starts melting, when it starts getting warm, your dirt road becomes a mud road, and it's just nasty. It's miserable. And we were there, and my dad had gotten a boat the year before, and we had a string of warm days that popped up, and most of the snow had melted. We thought, you know what? If it's warm this weekend, let's go fishing. So my dad got out there. He cleaned out the carburetor on the engine of the boat, and we got it ready. We got it hooked up, and we're driving through town. And we're driving through this little town. It's not a big town, maybe a couple thousand people, so everybody knows everybody. And we're driving through town. We're super excited. We're all like, man, I can't believe nobody else is doing this. And man, this is a perfect day. Look at the weather. It's like 80 degrees outside. The sun is shining. It is a beautiful day, and we're driving through town so proud of ourselves. And we get out there to Rifle Gap was the name of the place where we would go. We get out there to Rifle Gap, and we're driving through these mountain roads, just enjoying it. And we're like, it's going to be such a good day on the water. And we get up there, and there's this one last little curve that you have to do before you get to the lake. And we make that last little curve, and we turn the corner, and we see that the lake is still frozen solid. And we were so disappointed. And when we get out there, and we're like, so we turn around, and whereas when we were driving to Rifle Gap, we were all sitting up, so proud of ourselves, wondering why nobody else is doing fishing today. And as we came back through town with our tail tucked between our legs, my brother and I were in the back seats, and we really did our absolute best to kind of slink down. And we got as low as we possibly could, sinking down low in those seats. And we had been waving at people on the way into town, and then on the way back through town, we're like, I don't want anybody to know that I'm in this vehicle right now towing a boat when Rifle Gap is still completely frozen over. So that was a missed opportunity to go and do some fishing.
What is it about fishing that just has stories attached to it?
I don't know.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Let me one more sentimental thing.
Okay. We like sentimental.
Yeah, we do like sentimental.
Let me straighten up while you do this. Sentimental. Let's go.
So let me just tell you, if you're listening to this, live life on purpose. Okay? Live life on purpose.
Okay.
There was my dad and my grandpa. They grew up, and my dad was the firstborn, and so they kind of strained relationship. And then there was this one time, my dad and my grandpa went fishing together. They went deep sea fishing together, and they were out there on the water, and my dad and my grandpa kind of reconciled. It was a beautiful moment in time. Both of them came back. The relationship was pretty repaired. I mean, it was a pretty bad relationship, and it was repaired in a lot of ways. And that was a pivotal moment in time. And so when I had plans to do that with my dad, and my parents moved in with us, he got Alzheimer's, and my wife, even one Christmas, she did not get me any gifts. She got me, she printed out something where I could go deep sea fishing with my dad, like the idea. And then she just wrapped this printout around some cash. And that was my Christmas gift that year. It was one of the most thoughtful gifts that I've ever gotten in my entire life. Well, my dad's Alzheimer, it progressed quicker than what we expected it to once they moved in with us. And just the timing didn't work out. And I'll tell you what, one of my biggest regrets is not being able to go deep sea fishing with my dad. Mm-hmm. And so let me just tell you, if you're listening to this, find something that you can do to repair those relationships. Do life on purpose.
And
don't miss those opportunities.
Take the time.
Take the time.
There's a lot of people who don't think they have time to do things.
And you do. And I look back and I did.
I have proven that wrong over my years.
Yeah.
You do have the time. You may have to not do something else for a little bit.
You have to make some sacrifices, but
the other stuff will be there. You made me think of something.
Purpose.
Speaking of sentimental, my grandmother who raised me, Mama, we'll call her. That's what I called her. Mama loved to go to Big Creek, sit a lawn chair right up close to the creek, and fish for perch.
Okay.
Just little sun perch. She loved to do that. I can hear
those
her.
Those things are really bony, aren't they? I mean, they're not much meat, and they're really bony.
No, and I'm getting to that because I can hear her in my mind laughing and carrying on. She liked to laugh and cackle, and in my mind I can see her over there in that lawn chair laughing. And you can catch sun perch pretty easily, so you catch a bunch of them. But what she loved to do after she caught all those, and we caught them for her, she loved to go home and fry those up. And you have to eat 20 of them to get enough meat. But she loved that. She would she would fry those things, bread them, cornmeal and stuff, and fry them up, and she'd eat those things.
Did she debone them before doing that?
No. We ate them right off the bone out there.
Yeah.
We cut the head off, clean them up, and leave the tail and stuff on there, and just they're very good. Of course, you put enough salt and cornmeal on something, fry it, it's going to be pretty good. But
they do that in Nepal too.
Do they?
It takes a minute to get used to, but like they cook the fish whole, and you just got to make sure you're not chomping on a bone.
We got rid of eyeballs. That's just too freaky. We didn't care anything about them looking back at us. But.
Yeah.
Nice, good little stories there.
Yeah, when I was growing up in an apartment, talking about perch, there was this little pond behind the apartment, and you could stick your dry fish hook down into the water, come up with a perch. You put it back down in the water, and you come up with the perch and another one attached to that one's tail. And I think the record I got was like 3 or 4 perch attached to each other.
They were starving in there.
They were apparently very hungry, and it was just a school of perch.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I never ate one after I grew up. I just never.
It's a lot of work for that.
Now, trout's another story.
Trout's good. Good river trout.
Oh man. Okay, so
I'm hungry. Are you hungry?
I am hungry now. Good front porch visit.
We need somebody to make some really good trout for us. And we could sample it on Mike the Baptist.
And I surely would. And I'd be very serious about that food review.
Yeah.
Trout.
That would be a good one.
Keep that in mind, folks. Yeah, I'm hungry. I want that. Let's take a break. Come back and talk about some stuff we found in the Bible.
Mike the Baptist.
You know what I like about the Bible? Quite a bit, actually.
It's really long?
No, that part I'm not much on my attention spans. I like it for a lot of reasons. I joke and kid around a lot, but I like that book because it doesn't let you down. That includes roughing you up a little bit, but to me, that's not letting you down. That's kind of
lifting you up.
Yeah, it's beneficial if you pay a little bit of attention. It's beneficial, so it doesn't hurt to be roughed up a little. But I like it because of all of that. It's a well-rounded food for your inside. If you take a little time with it. Me, I don't read a bunch at one time. I read very little at one time and then chew on that for a pretty good while. I'm a little dense, so it takes me a while to kind of get the ideas of some stuff. But there's no other book in the world like that. Just no
There's
other.
Really not. It is a unique. Even take God out of the equation. The Bible literally has every type of literature in it. I mean, it's got romance in there if that's your thing. It's got murder and mayhem in there if that's your thing. I mean, it's got self-help in there if that's your thing. And it's well written. It's got songs. It's got folk proverb type stuff in there. I mean, it's got everything. There is something in there for every single person for every moment of your life.
There's a little humor in there too. I mean, it's not. Some of it is not intentional. Some of it's not intentional, but some of it was.
Yeah.
Some things that were said were absolutely in jest, but it's funny that the Bible could get away with that. Because you don't think about the Bible ever being something you would think humor would be in, but there's some in there. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
He does have a sense of humor.
Yes, he does.
Speaking of a sense of humor, it's just you and I today. So I'm always the most uneducated one at the table. Today, you are singly the most educated here. I am absolutely still the most uneducated here. So I'm going to play advocate to your talk about what we found in the Bible this week.
Okay.
And I may ask you questions that don't seem highly intelligent, but I'm only doing that to help you be able to better explain to everybody else.
Sure.
So
you're going to help me dumb it down.
Yeah, that and I don't know. But so we're going to let you carry away.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right.
So at our church, the place that we're at, we've been talking about spiritual gifts. And I think this is a subject matter that is good for so many different people. And here's folk wisdom from Dolly Parton, right? So this is starting off really well. Dolly Parton had this saying, find out who you are and do it on purpose. And in the spiritual gifts, I think that's one of those things where it will help you find out who you are made by God. And then as you know who you are made by God, you can begin to do things on purpose. And so there's a lot of different passages in the Bible that really talk about that. And then you begin to catch this picture of there's quite a few different types of spiritual gifts that God has given to people. And so one of the things that kind of brings to mind is when Israel crossed over from Egypt into the Promised Land, they crossed the Jordan River there. And one of the things that God told them to do is grab several stones from the middle of the river. And so they grabbed these stones from the middle of the river, and we're not talking like little pebbles. We're talking massive stones that probably weighed 100, 200 pounds apiece or something like that. And they made this monument. And why they did that is because every time they looked at that monument, it was a reminder of who God was, how faithful he was, and how he would equip you to do the task that he had laid before you. Mm-hmm. And so in the context of spiritual gifts, I just want to say, being able to look back at how God has worked in the past often has an impact on how you can serve him in the present. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing about spiritual gifts is we have natural tendencies, you and I do. There's people that are naturally gifted in one direction, naturally gifted in another. Their personality is bent one direction, their personality is bent another direction. But there's a difference between that and spiritual gifts. Now, you may have a natural bent towards something. Like, let's say that you're mathematically inclined. You may have a mathematical inclination, and you just pick up numbers real easy, and so there's lots of different things you can do about that. You may have a natural bent that direction, but the difference between that and a spiritual gift is something that is empowered and kind of awoken in you when you become a Christian. Mm-hmm. And so when you become a Christian, Christ steps into your life and he gives you a specific spiritual gift for you. Every believer has at least one spiritual gift that they have available to them. And there's an interesting thing about that is there's no single believer that has all of the spiritual gifts. And so that kind of makes you wonder, why is it that no believer has all of the spiritual gifts? Well, I don't know about you, but we've kind of all been around know-it-alls, right?
Yes.
And when you have a know-it-all, you can't tell them anything because they already know it all. Mm-hmm. And when you get around people like that, they're just unbearable. They're just hard to be around. They suck the fun out of everything. Mm-hmm. You know, when you discover something and you're excited about it, they're like, oh, yeah, I already knew about that. And it just takes all the fun out of learning things. And so I think one of the reasons that God doesn't give every spiritual gift to every believer is because he wants us to actually have to work together. There's a connectedness that happens with spiritual gifts. And when you use them the way that God wants you to use them, it actually draws other people together. And your spiritual gift isn't just for you, it's for other people. Mm-hmm. And so when you serve and you're exercising the spiritual gift that God has given you, sometimes it can be hard. Sometimes you can get tired, you can get worn out, you can get weary just doing the thing that God has designed you to do. And that's where the other spiritual gifts come in. You need other people to serve alongside you, where your shortcomings are, their spiritual gift is. And we have a fuller picture of who God is with all believers together than we would otherwise. But as you begin to serve, as you begin to do things and exercise the gift that God has given you, sometimes you can just get worn out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can get a little jaded. I don't know if you're with me on that, but sometimes when you're working, especially with church people, sometimes you just get a little tired.
Well, yeah.
You're dealing with all their junk, you get a little worn out. But going back to the original story is, one of the things that helps you exercise your spiritual gift and use your spiritual gift is when you look back and you see all the ways that God has been faithful in the past. Mm-hmm. And that's a reminder of how God will be faithful in the present. And he'll give you the strength in the present to do the thing that he's laid before you. And he's going to equip you to do the thing that he's laid before you. And even more than that, he's going to empower you to do the thing he's laid before you. And he's going to supernaturally gift you to do the work that he has laid before you.
Would you say that the looking back part is like the markers that those people built out of those rocks and
100%
put down?
Yeah.
So in my simple world, I can look back over my time as a Christian, and I can see periods where some of the abilities he gave me I wasn't using for anything that had anything to do with him as far as I knew. But after becoming a Christian, little by little, I became aware that I could use those abilities to maybe help out in those causes, like around my church or in somebody, just dealing with somebody personally. So the abilities were used, but I think they were only used because the gift part was whatever it was he put in me to want to use it that way. Knowing
hadn't been woken up in you yet.
Yeah, knowing I could do that, but then all of a sudden realizing why I could do that. I always go back to Criswell down at the big Dallas seminary, or in a book of his, he wrote a line about and talked about the reason God gave you a talent. Mm-hmm. And he gave you a talent because there are other people that don't have that talent, and it's your job to share that talent with people who don't have that ability.
Yeah.
To see that or feel it or hear it. It's the same with anybody. I mean, I'm talking about art because I'm kind of involved in art, but it's anything. Like if you have a talent to just be able to deal with people who are dealing with heavy, serious stuff, that's a talent, to be able to sit with somebody and be able to converse with them without falling apart yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a talent and it's ability, but I suspect somebody that's talented in that way, there comes a time where they realize that they have that ability, and if they use it in the right way, then that's their gift. I think, Jason, personally, last Sunday, our teacher in my Connect class was talking about all of this, and as he was talking, as I often do, I was thinking about something else. But I was thinking about how
it's like my students.
Yes, how all of us great Americans here, or people in our Western culture.
You're multitasking is what you're saying.
I was. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about how when the list of the spiritual gifts was given in the Bible, there was no test attached to it. There was no form to fill out, which is what we're all trying to get each other to do all the time. It was just the idea of each of those abilities, and then it moved on.
Yeah.
But our culture, our church culture, modern church culture, we have to turn that into a workbook and a test and a list and a check mark, and then we have to have classes about it, and we have to have studies about it. And it dawned on me that there are people that might never really understand what their gift is, because they're trying to pin a specific name out of that list we carry around, and they just have a struggle with that and wind up never really trying things. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to explain? Yeah. That's what I was thinking about. Is that everybody is gifted somehow, but I'm afraid that there are people who, well, I don't even pick one out of the list, because it's, what do you pick?
Well, I could tell you the one that you have, just knowing you long enough.
Okay.
And I'll use an Old Testament passage. When they were building the temple, God said, I have given the spirit of, and then he goes on to list several things. And one of the things that he lists there is the gift of essentially the arts.
Oh, okay. I'll buy that.
God said, I've equipped them to do this, and I've called them to do this, and they're going to come, and they're going to help you out, and they're going to build this beautiful temple because they were equipped in the arts. Some of that was they were equipped in music. Some of it is equipped there in just being able to do carpentry. Some
creativity.
of them was creativity.
Yeah.
And so I would say, just knowing you,
I'll take that.
That's you.
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
And you exercise that. You do that. But it's just that we struggle sometimes to actually pinpoint what it is and put a name on it, so that we can actually do it.
Yeah, you want me to say I'm either sympathetic or empathetic or pathetic or some label. But anyway, it was just kind of
And then there's other people, like there's a guy that I'm working with. He's helping me out with Up, where he does a phenomenal job. I am very much not an administrative type person, and that is one of the spiritual gifts that's listed there. It's a gift of administration. That is not my forte. Like, I have learned the skill to do it and to be able to administrate an Upward program that's one of the largest in the nation. I mean, it's not anything that I'm doing. God is doing something awesome in this, and it existed before me. It will exist after me. I just get to be along for the ride. And so I've learned the skill of administration to be able to run a program like that. But it's not something that I take great pleasure out of, doing the administrative side of things. Like I'm just, that's not what I like.
Yeah, your mind on other things.
Got my mind on other things. Man, those Saturdays are fun. Running up and down the field with the players,
right.
doing
messing
that,
with all those kids and watching
messing
them.
with the kids, seeing the families. That's the fun side. Like, I love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
But there's a guy that's he's very much like, in many ways, the exact opposite of me. And he took the spiritual gifts test, and he said, hey, I just wanted to kind of let you know. I mean, I took that, and I thought it was really, kind of enlightening / surprising that he scored a 25 out of 25 in the gift of administration. And I was like, man, I could have told you that before you took that test, because
you can just see that on
you just see him, you watch him, and he's like, man, let's figure out a process. Let's see how we can make this work easier and quicker. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's do this. But
I'm much like you, but I got to say, a friend of mine, sometime last week, got in touch with me, and they know that I probably won't fill that test list out. I'm just that's just how I am. I don't sign up for things. I don't raise my hands if
Yeah.
They knew that I probably wouldn't, so they texted me photocopies of that test and asked me if I would fill it in, and then they scored me. Ironically, administration was my strongest thing. I laughed about that, but I didn't laugh because behind the scenes, behind my brand, I can do that if I need to do that. So, but it was funny that was the one that scored highest. But
yeah,
because I'm much like you. I'd rather do the thing,
Yeah,
I can see the vision, but I enjoy doing the thing,
Yeah. And talking about spiritual gifts, it's really interesting when you start to dive into this subject. If you, for instance, have the spiritual gift of administration, if you get put into a setting where you're asked to walk away from administration and do something else entirely different, it will drain you. It'll wear you out. It'll make you tired, and you'll get frustrated because you're not actually doing the thing that God has designed you to do. Whereas if you're a person that is more along the lines of like the upfront, you like to be the life of the party, you enjoy doing that kind of stuff, if that's your natural bent, and then maybe God gives you the spiritual gift of speaking, if you have to step away from that role and administrate, that will drain you. But when you're doing the thing that God has implanted in you, when you're doing life on purpose, when you find out who you are and you do it on purpose, it's almost it's work, yeah, but it's not really like.
But it's easy
work.
It's like the effort is different.
It's just so much easier than it would be otherwise.
Yeah, it's yeah, and I think everybody can relate to what you just said there. So, okay, I told you I was going to play unintelligent advocate here. So that includes me bringing up at this point right here a beef that I've had with churches ever since I've been involved with churches. Is stepping out of your comfort zone. That phrase drives me up a wall because I've been asked over the years in churches to step out of my comfort zone and do something like go door to door and pass out tracts. Sure. I hate doing that. I do not want to knock on your door at 5 in the evening when you're trying to eat and read you a tract. I don't want to do that, but it used to be that I felt guilty about not participating sometimes because they were asking me, well, you need to step out of your comfort zone. I don't do that anymore, but not for a bad reason. It's for a good reason, and it sounds like the reason we're talking about right here, it's not who I am. It's not what I do. I'm not comfortable doing it. So, but there are people I've come to know that are comfortable doing that. It's their thing.
So you're bringing up something really interesting right here.
Okay.
And every spiritual gift has the positive side that everybody sees. Like if you have the gift of evangelism, I mean, you could be pumping gas and somebody could come to salvation. I mean, like you're pumping gas and then you start talking to the person on the other side of the gas tank or the gas pump, and the conversation just happens. It just flourishes. And then all of a sudden somebody gets saved right then and there. If you have the gift of evangelism, stuff like that just happens. If you don't have the gift of evangelism, like you're pumping gas and you're just like looking up, looking away, looking down. You're doing everything you can to not make awkward conversation with people, right? Because it's not your spiritual gift. So there's the positive that everybody sees. Like, we applaud people. Like, there's a man named Gene Hanna at our church. He's just an older gentleman, and man, he just works so well with the down and out, and people get saved. I don't know how many people have come to salvation because he's been willing to have a conversation with them.
Right.
People see that side of Gene Hanna, and they just applaud the spiritual gift that he has. And then let's say on the other side, HD speaks at our church every Sunday, or most Sundays, as the senior pastor, and they love that aspect of his spiritual gift. And we just applaud when they do that. We love when they're leading in their spiritual gifts. But the flip side of that is...
Right, I was just flipping both of those in my mind.
Yeah.
I was picturing HD at a gas pump and going, who are you?
Yeah, that's the
Why
thing.
Are you talking to me?
The flip side of it is...
it's not that drastic, but it's just a funny thought.
Well,
and picturing Gene going, "Who are you?"
Yeah,
just reversing all that. Okay, I'm sorry.
So there's the positive side of every spiritual gift, and then there's the flip side of every spiritual gift. When we are doing the spiritual gift that God has given us to work with, and when we're exercising that spiritual gift, we see life through the lens of that spiritual gift. If your gift is evangelism and you see people get saved, you think everybody should be doing evangelism the way that you do evangelism.
That's an interesting
And the sharp
point.
side of that is, if you have a spiritual gift, and especially if you are off the charts in that spiritual gift, you have a tendency to see things through that lens, and you only see this as the right way. But one of the things that God does with the spiritual gifts is he doesn't give everybody every spiritual gift. He gives different people different spiritual gifts so that we have to work together. And so that at the end result, what we see is a fuller picture of who God is and what he wants to do in and through and for and to us when we work together. We see a fuller picture of who God is. When you see people like a Gene Hanna just flourishing in the use of their spiritual gift, and people are getting saved, people are getting baptized, homeless people are getting saved. People that are dealing with recovery, addictions, and all these different things are getting saved because he's faithfully just sharing the gospel with them. We applaud that. And then when you have the gospel being shared in sermon form every single Sunday through HD, man, we applaud that. But God gives different spiritual gifts to different people so that they can use their gifts in the way that he determined for it.
I hadn't thought about that before, about seeing it through the lens of how you are bent yourself.
Yeah. And so whereas we all have the command to share the gospel, like that is a command that it's not just for those that have the spiritual gift of evangelism.
Right.
In Matthew 28, it says, all authority has been given in heaven to share, and therefore go and make disciples. We have all been given the command to make disciples, but it's going to look different from one person to another. If you have the gift of evangelism, man, it's going to look different. But everybody has the command to do making disciples.
Right.
But it's going to look different from one person to another. With Gene Hanna, it's going to look different. With you play a role in making disciples at the church that we're at, but it looks different. What that looks like is you're using your gift to help make sure that the technical side of a church service works, to do things like acoustic Christmas, to do events like that, the musical side of things, the technical side of things. You're making disciples by using your spiritual gift. You're fulfilling the role and responsibility that every believer has to make disciples, but you're doing it differently. You're doing it through your gift.
Wouldn't it be boring?
Man, it would be boring.
Everybody did it the same.
Yeah. And also really chaotic between you and I. If everybody had the ADHD brain that I do or the ADD brain that you have,
But man, look at the fun we would have.
That'd be real fun. But man,
I mean, the whole state would be flocking there to see what's up. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought before about me seeing the world through the eyes of how I think, because it's really easy to think the right way about everything. Basically, that's the human part of you, I guess, to be that way. But yeah, The gift thing, I guess the older you get, the more you kind of start sitting back and realizing that everybody's not like you. And
thank goodness.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Granted, I still think some of the other ways are a little insane that I see.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just
100%.
Try not to vocalize them as much.
What's really funny is when somebody thinks they have a spiritual gift of
and
whatever,
don't.
and they don't, and you're like, man, this is really hard to sit through.
I was thinking about, you were talking about, how you have a certain ability or something or gift, and you're thinking, well, you should do this. But I was thinking, no, because I do a little singing sometimes, and there are people that do not need to be singing. Just don't do that. It used to be you get up in front of a crowd and I'd try to get people to clap, and then it just came, don't clap. Don't do that because you can't.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's ability, I guess, and not gift. But I guess the same applies, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With your gift, I would. I'm not on the preacher side of the table here. Mm-hmm. But I would encourage people to maybe not get too hung up on trying to find yourself a label out of these spiritual gift lists, and think more about how you are than what you are. And I think you come closer to finding a role if you do that. Because who am I to argue with how God made me? I'm not going to argue with how He made me. I'm learning more all the time about how to live within the way that I think He made me, and it works better for me.
Yeah,
it keeps me more in a lane that I'm comfortable with, and maybe more effective in. You know what I'm saying?
Effective is a great word right there. And when you're serving in the spiritual gift that God has given you, you're a whole lot more effective for the gospel than you are when you're misplaced. When you're in the wrong place, it doesn't matter how hard you're trying, you're not empowered by the Holy Spirit to do the thing that He has actually designed you for. And so you're a whole lot more effective when you're serving where God wants you to serve, doing the thing that He has designed you for, gifted you for, and empowered you for.
Yeah. And it's a lot less stressful.
Yeah.
And
if you take an introvert, and that's the way that God has made them naturally, and you try to put them in an extrovert position, they're just going to get worn out and weary, and they're going to get tired real quick, and they're going to walk away.
Yeah.
But when you take an introvert and you give them the gift of evangelism, what you might see is they'll have very deep conversations with people, and the conversation won't start superficial and shallow and stay on the level. They'll go deep, and they'll be able to answer those deep questions that somebody has. But if you try to put them in front of a whole crowd of people and have them use their spiritual gift of evangelism, it's not going to go well for them. And so there's the natural talent that God has given you, the natural disposition that you have. And when you couple that with the right way, or the right spiritual gift, and you do it in the right way, using both your natural bent and the spiritual gift that God has given you, you're a whole lot more effective for the gospel than you would be otherwise.
I agree. Been there, done that. And those markers you're talking about, you can look back on your own time around a church, which is where the spiritual gift list comes up at church. It doesn't come up at Kroger randomly. It comes up at your church. But you can look back at your life, and you can see these little places where I actually kind of enjoyed doing that project or that task or that event. I actually kind of enjoyed that, and I felt comfortable doing it. And then you can look back at things like I can about trying to teach grade school kids one time. And that's not me.
Yeah.
I'm too much like them to try to teach them. But so I can look back at markers like that where probably, that's probably what I need to avoid a little bit. But then the good things like singing at a little country church where you can see in their eyes they're listening to you and paying attention and appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's a marker that tells me do that again.
Yeah. Let me give you a couple more examples that people may be familiar with if they go to church or whatever.
Okay. Then on the one hand, we need to wrap this segment up after we do that.
Yeah. On the one hand, you'll see people that they have the gift of service, but they have no mechanical ability. They just have the gift of service. So you'd be better off putting them in position where they didn't have to do any mechanical ability. Do not put a power tool in their hand if their natural bent is not mechanical ability. Like, put them somewhere else.
Right. Don't step out of your comfort zone.
Put them at the door, saying hi to people. Put them behind the scenes, wrapping stuff up. Put them somewhere else. Let them use the gift of service somewhere else. But if somebody has the gift of service, and I'm going to use a name, our children's minister's father. has the gift of service, but he has mechanical ability. And so when Becky asks for a particular thing to be made,
Right.
it is an easy thing for her dad to make it, mechanically speaking,
Right.
and then he gets to use his gift of service by making these crazy things. I've seen him build
all sorts of things.
all sorts of crazy things for VBS.
Yeah.
And he's using his gift of service in the way that God has designed him to use it.
Right.
And then on the other hand, let me give you one more example, and we can wrap this segment up.
Okay.
There's a difference between the gift of preaching and the gift of pastoring. Like, there's two different types of ways of leading, right? You may have the gift of leadership, but then there's a difference between a preacher and a pastor. A preacher has a tendency to more along the lines of they're usually more teachers. They're more not intellectual necessarily, but they love learning and they love diving into the Word, and then they love sharing that with people. They're more teachers. And then there's the more pastor, and a pastor is like a shepherd, and the shepherd, they love people. And when people run off, they go chasing after them. They bring them back. When their people are hurting, they go out there and they help those people. Now, they both function on the role of leadership. The gift is leadership, but it's going to look different. If you have somebody that's in leadership of your church and their gift is preaching, give them the opportunity to preach. Give them opportunities to teach. Give them opportunities to lead small groups, to do whatever, to teach a Wednesday night. Put them in position to use their gift. Their gift is leadership, but they have the gift of leadership through preaching.
Right.
But if their gift is leadership and they're a pastor, put them in position to be used by God by going to the hospitals and going to the hurting people. Give them opportunities to go to the nursing homes and go and share the gospel with people there. Give them an opportunity to love people and to lead in loving people in the way that they're naturally gifted and naturally built to, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And when you get to do it the way that God wants you to do it, it's good stuff.
It's always good stuff. And you'll be happy you did it.
Yeah.
And you'll want to do it again.
Yep.
Et cetera, et cetera. What do you say, Jason, to the non-Christian that might have stumbled in here? What's all this? Does this spiritual gift business have anything to do with them? If they're sitting back saying, I wonder if I have one of those.
Well, if you're an unbeliever and you've stumbled into this, you don't have a spiritual gift.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that.
So
yet.
You should be wondering, well, how does one get a spiritual gift? Maybe you've listened to this and you're like, man, I really just, I want to find a way to serve and help people. And I don't think I have a spiritual gift. Well, if you're an unbeliever, the first step to getting a spiritual gift is to get into a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Right.
The first thing you got to do is, if you want to go through the very basic, quick overview of what it means to get saved, man, you gotta be willing to admit you ain't perfect, but we ain't either. You got to admit that you mess up a little bit, right? And when you get to the point where you admit that you're not a perfect person, that you don't have it within yourself to fix the deepest issue that's within you, when you admit that, then you begin to think, well, how do I fix that? Because it's not within me. I can't fix it. Pop culture tells you, pop psychology tells you, you can fix it. You just think hard enough. The answer's within you. It's not. And you're not going to fix yourself. You can cover it up, but you're not going to fix yourself. And so you got to look for where the solution is. I'm going to tell you, having studied other religions, having studied the Bible deeply, the answer is in Jesus Christ.
I believe that.
And experientially saying, and I can look through my life and I can point at all these moments and times that it was literally just a work of Jesus making something happen that I couldn't do on my own, bringing something into my life that I needed, that I could not meet that need myself. And I can point to Jesus all throughout my life. And when you trust him, he'll change everything about you. And then when you trust him, one of the things that he does is he gives you a spiritual gift. And that spiritual gift isn't just for you. That spiritual gift is for you to use for other people.
Yep. And it gives you something to do.
It does.
If you're looking for purpose, that's one way you get it right there.
That's one of the most beautiful things that God does in our life is he gives you a purpose.
And wants to include you, it seems.
Yep.
Wants you to kind of play along. That's kind of nice.
On purpose, for a purpose.
So, it's like overnight. I know we got to wrap this up, but overnight, almost, you go from being totally alone and lost. Hey, there's an interesting word. and lost, like you can't find the answer, to the next day, you're included in the answer. You've got the answer, and you're included in the process of it playing out. And yeah, interesting.
It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. Let's take a break. Come back and play.
Best decision you'll ever make.
Inny or Outty. It is. Give it a try, as they say. Okay.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. Here's Mike.
This is exciting, Jason. You know why?
Why is that?
It's been weeks since we played Inny or Outty.
It has been.
I've forgotten how exciting it is.
It's a lot of fun.
Do you notice also on this episode, there was no buzzing? It's just two of us sitting here talking. Nobody got buzzed. So that means either that we forgot about it, forget about it.
Forget about it.
Either we forgot about it or we didn't have a reason to be buzzed. I was trying to turn it on, but you know what? Buzz free.
There we go.
It's a buzz free episode.
Don't get buzzed on Mike the Baptist.
That's right. Not today. Let's play Inny or Outty. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
Either one.
It doesn't. I'll spin this pen and see where it points. How's that?
Sure.
It's you.
All right.
All right, Jason. Let it rip.
LeBron James.
Yep. It's not in the Bible.
It is not that I know of in the Bible. But
win?
LeBron James, he had this commercial a few years ago, and it says, "We are witnesses." And so that got me to thinking, like, well, is that in the Bible? And that phrase is in the Bible.
We are witnesses.
We are witnesses.
Yeah.
It's actually in the book of Ruth,
Uh-huh.
and it's in reference to a commitment that was made between Boaz and Ruth. And
That's what I was going to say, too.
yeah, I could tell in your
Uh-huh.
eyes that you had that on the tip of your tongue.
Right.
That got me to thinking, there's other phrases that we use that kind of, is it in the Bible, is it not?
Right. Which would be an Inny or an Outty.
In Inny or Outty, with witnesses in it. And so one of the things that we use,
Yep.
sometimes in court cases, sometimes just in normal conversation, is God is my witness. In the Bible or not?
They say, as God is my witness.
God is my witness. Inny or Outty?
I guess it doesn't make a difference if it has the as in front of it. Does it?
I don't know. For the context of what we're talking about, I did not have that particular thing in mind. So.
Oh, well, it doesn't
I'm not
matter
that
anyway,
specific.
because I was thinking if it said, as God is my witness, that sounds like man would say that. But then the God is my witness is in the phrase. So anyway, you see what I'm saying? So this is the ADD version of Mike the Baptist. Which
There we go. You're welcome.
kind of rolls
We
on
hope
its
you've
own.
enjoyed this ride.
God is my witness. So my gut reaction, which I always like to bring up, whether it's right or wrong, just because it's entertaining sometimes, my gut reaction is that it's not actually in there, because it does sound so familiar, and I think that you might be trying to trick me by bringing it up because it sounds so familiar.
Well, that's the kind of the game, isn't it?
It is exactly the game, but
Yeah.
I have to use a little time here, so
There we go.
I have to use words.
God is my witness. That is the game.
That is, yeah. Is that in the Bible or out? That's a good point. So my gut says no, but I can see. No, I can't. I was going to say that. Well, there's only one of me over here, so I'm having a conversation with myself. Normally, there's two people talking about this. I can see where that would be just a man-made phrase, like you're talking to somebody and they don't believe you, and you say, God is my witness. I can't think of anybody in the scripture that would need to say, God is my witness. I can see where they might need to say, I'm God's witness. I can't see a place where they would say.
You're turning that around, yeah.
Yeah. So the process makes sense in my head sometimes, but then oftentimes that gets blown up like a soap bubble once it gets outside
So just
my
out
head.
of curiosity,
Yeah.
if it's not in the Bible,
Right.
why is it so widespread?
I think for the same reason people say, honest to God.
Oh, okay.
Because they're trying to back
That'd be a
up.
good one. Is that in the Bible?
That would be a good one. Yeah, I think because you would say that because you're trying to back up something you're trying to make somebody believe.
Oh, okay.
Whether it's true or not.
It adds validity to what you're saying.
Well, yeah, you bring God in there. Who's going to argue a lot with that? You know what I'm saying? In your Outty.
Interesting. If you use the phrase, God is my witness, and you're lying,
yes,
you're basically saying that God is witnessing you lying. So,
oh yeah, you're not.
That'd be
not
doubly
good.
bad. Yeah.
You're not going to come out of that one good.
No.
The heat will be turned up eventually on you for that one.
Yeah, we want to keep it nice and cool in eternity. So,
not even if you got your fingers crossed behind your back and you say that, it's like, oh no. I'd be careful about that. I think it's an Outty, Jason. Something makes me believe God is my witness is an Outty. That's my answer.
That's your
Outty.
final answer?
Yep. Outty.
Okay, so let me...
You're going to read something.
pull up. It's in two places.
Okay.
Romans 1:9 and Philippians 1:8.
Of course it is.
God is my witness. Yeah.
What did they say about it? Do you know?
I'll have to pull those up because the last time I actually wrote that down was quite a while ago. Let me see. Okay. Romans 1:9.
Interesting. So it's definitely a loss, but I'm glad to know it as it is with all the Inny or Outty questions. I'm always glad to know the answer just because I feel a little smarter or something when I know these answers.
In
you will too when I finish mine shortly.
I bet.
Uh-huh.
In Romans 1:9, the author of Romans is talking about he thanks God through Jesus Christ for all of you because your faith is proclaimed in the world. For God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in this gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I mention you always in my prayers.
So my whole argument was kind of ridiculous when you think about it, that why would God need to be my witness?
He was definitely trying to make sure that they knew that he was not making this up. Yeah. And in Philippians 1:8, the author there says, for God is my witness, how I yearn for you with all, or how I yearned for you all with the affection of Christ Jesus.
So I had the concept right about why you would use it. Mm-hmm. Good. I'll take that as a half win. I'm always looking for some.
As far as I know, and it specifically is in the ESV. It may not be. Right. It may be translated a little bit different other ones, but it's only two places.
Interesting. Okay, that was a good one. And yep, I love them. I love the ones that make you think about have I been using that right or not.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move into the power seat now, Jason, and you can have a conversation with yourself about this one. Is the word toenail in the Bible?
Okay, so
you got really serious there all of a sudden.
Well, I'm thinking there are moments of time in the Scripture where
only you would start off answering a question, is the word toenail in the Bible? Only you would start it off by saying, well, there are moments in the Bible.
So there,
carry on.
Specifically, when it's talking about the priest, how they get sanctified and ready to actually serve in the work of the temple.
Right. There's no R in sanctified, by the way. I'm just.
What did I say?
Sanctified.
Sanctified.
It's funny,
that's a redneck version of
Outty.
Yeah, not in there. Not a word. So there are places when the priest is getting consecrated to serve in the temple.
Right.
That they would do a sacrifice, and there would be blood put on their thumb, on their earlobe, and on their toe. Right. And as I'm thinking about that, I'm not sure if it actually says toenail or if it's just big toe. But it was put on the toenail. So, is the word toenail?
Right. Exactly, the word toenail. The way we use it nowadays. Like paint your toenails. Gosh. Paint your toenails blue.
So it does say on the thumb and on the earlobe.
Yep.
And then the toe.
And right,
big
because
toe.
I remember that
the
one
right
time.
Earlobe, the right thumb, right toe. Toenail.
Toenail.
I think it is. But I'm only about like 60-40. It's not much.
So you're giving yourself a little out there.
51-49. I mean, it's pretty close to 50-50.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it just says toe or if it says toenail, but I do know it talks about that particular part of your body. I just don't know if it uses that word.
Oh, in fact, some time ago, I had an Inny or Outty question. Was your big toe in the Bible?
Oh. And that would be for sure, yeah.
And it's always on your right foot. It was your right toe, right?
Your right toe, yeah.
But is the word toenail in there? It's kind of a silly question, but it's about the Bible, so it's not silly at all, Jason.
I'm gonna say it is in there, but I'm not super sure because I don't know if it's just toe or if it's toenail. But I'm gonna say it's in there because of that particular passage of scripture jumped to mind immediately.
Okay, so your answer is
in. And I'm probably wrong, but I'm not super sure on whether.
Well, you got to use the official answer. Is it
It's officially an Inny.
An Inny?
Inny.
The word toenail's not in the Bible anywhere. It's just not in there.
Shoot.
But the toe thing is.
Toe thing is.
The word nail scattered around, but it's not talking about on your toe.
Yeah, it's probably talking about something you hammer into a wall or something.
Yeah, more stuff like that. So, but no, there's no toenail in the Bible. So there you go. Once again, folks, if you get in one of those serious religious discussions at a party, and that comes up, you will know. That's not in there. Toenail's not in that Bible.
Interesting.
I'm glad because it's kind of, toenail's a weird word. It conjures up weird things in your head. It's just like toenail, you know? Maybe not for everybody.
You know what's weird?
Oh, wait, no, I'm not going to go there. I saw an old guy in Texas once that had toenails that you would never forget. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Oh.
Why do people?
I don't know.
Why do people like toes?
Well, I don't know. Their toes are a little weird too, but they help.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with them, but like, why do people like them?
Well,
it's weird.
It's an odd thing.
It is weird.
There are things that are just odd.
Yeah.
And but anyway, okay. So let's take a break and come back and tell everybody goodbye.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
Hey, we're back, and I don't know why we take a break after Inny Outty and then come back. Oh, I know why we take a break. We used to come back and sing this great hymn.
Yeah.
Which we haven't done in a long time. Maybe we should, like, annually have an anniversary and do it.
So earlier you said there's some people that shouldn't sing.
Yeah.
And we should not make them do it.
Yeah.
That's probably why we stopped doing.
So
the
listen,
hymnal.
folks. We did a hymn for about a year and a half or something on end of every episode. Jason tried so hard over that time to get in a heavy metal type, song.
Every
And we
once in a while.
always fought him a little
Yeah,
bit
you
on
did.
that, and never quite got to is it Thrasher or what's the ones where they get really intense?
Well, there's screamo. I don't really like screamo.
Screamo.
I just like the traditional hard rock heavy metal. You know
right.
that minor keys, lots of guitar riffs,
Right.
a rhythm that's not just completely like somebody's having
Over
a
and
seizure
over.
on their hand. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't even necessarily like the double foot pedals on the bass drum or anything
Right.
like that. I want there to be rhythm, but I just like the minor tones. I like a lot of bass guitar.
Crazy Train? Do you like Crazy Train? Is that considered
his
heavy
voice
metal?
drives me nuts. Though.
Well, yeah, it does.
His
But
voice drives me nuts.
Ozzy.
Golly.
Well, anyway, we used to do that, but we don't anymore. Now we just come back and tell you thanks for joining us. We're glad you stuck around if you did. And Jason,
Yeah.
I enjoyed this two-man version of MTB. It seemed more like a conversation.
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't when there's three of us, but anyway.
It's more of like a panel.
Yeah. So anyway, it was good. I enjoyed it. So we're going to leave you now with all this wisdom that Jason and I have imparted on you today. Hope you got something out of it. I did. I usually do get a little something out of it. And Jason, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks
Jason
for the
Ricciardi.
opportunity.
I'm Mike the Baptist, and I guess we'll see you next time.
Peace out.
Take your ADD medicine, folks.
Unlike
or
us.
this happens. See you next time.
Remember, folks, we're all just Christians.
Try not to cuss.
Do your best. Get a gold star.
Mike the Baptist.